Ba 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 ba. That's the one part about this game that I absolutely love. And I guess we're just recording now. So yeah, as you sit there and drink your pineapple juice, you pompous ass.
It's got a little umbrella in it too.
Please tell me you're kidding.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I don't know. It doesn't have an umbrella.
Oh, I would definitely believe that you, of all people, would have an umbrella in your pineapple juice. I'm drinking just ghetto lemonade out of just a tub because I don't feel like getting an actual glass.
You're drinking it out of the tub?
It's basically just like a bucket. And I'm actually not kidding. There's like a bucket of lemonade that I purchased in, I will say, Augmented earlier, and it's just in a bucket now, so I'm just kind of drinking out of that. So yeah, real professional. That's how we do things here. So hello guys, this is indiejacob, as you all know, and with me, as I so gracefully plopped into my Yooka-Laylee video, I did a little snugget about Gilly being in a video, and this is going to be that video. If you want to say hey.
Hello, hi.
Okay. So if you're
pineapple juice.
If you're a frequent listener of the Digicast, you probably have a feeling how this is going to go. But we have slightly kind of different views about Yooka-Laylee. As you all probably know, unless somehow this goes viral and hits 1 million views, that won't happen. You probably all know that I enjoyed Yooka-Laylee for a good chunk, but it wasn't exactly my game of the year. Whereas Gilly, I thought, was quite literally going to find a physical copy of that game and just make sweet, hard love to it.
Because it is my game of the year.
That's good. I'm glad for you. Well, people already kind of know my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Gilly? What do you think of the game?
It's so good.
I never would have guessed.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like I don't get most of the criticisms about it. Like I honestly, genuinely don't understand them. I don't agree with them, and everyone has their right to their opinion, but I think most of the people that were criticizing the game are kind of detached from, I guess, what the game was setting out to do in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, this is basically just going to be a video of me a video of me and him going back and forth, talking about what we like and don't like about the game. Well, really just me saying what I don't like about the game. Yeah, I haven't actually explained that. We're like 3 minutes in now, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I agree with you on that. I think a lot of the criticisms of Yooka-Laylee really came down to I don't want to say this, but people being overly picky. I mean, I think a lot of my personal criticisms of the game were just personal annoyances. And that's something I explicitly stated in my video a couple of times, saying like, listen, this is my personal opinion. This is my annoyance with the game. You may have different results. And I wholeheartedly believe that Yooka-Laylee itself is a pretty fine game, just trapped with some shortcomings that I personally couldn't get over. But I know some people feel that way about Breath of the Wild, and I'm more than willing to admit that.
The funny thing about that is that a lot of the stuff that Yooka-Laylee got criticized for, Breath of the Wild did the exact same shit. Like, it's pretty crazy that a Nintendo game can get away with it.
But Gilly, there's no guidance in Yooka-Laylee.
There's no guidance, and there's barely any guidance in actually, Breath of the Wild is literally praised for not having guidance. That's actually the reason that people are saying they like.
Oh, sorry, I'll let you talk.
No, that's like, because that's one of the things that drove me crazy, was that like, that's the like. Breath of the Wild, I don't care who loves Breath of the Wild. Like, I liked it. I beat it. I didn't 100% it, obviously, but like, I beat it I didn't ever finish Skyward Sword, so that at least says that I like it better than Skyward Sword. But
It's such a high bar there.
but like it didn't. Breath of the Wild didn't click with me the way it did with everyone else, but I still liked it. I liked it enough to spend more time on it than I spent more hours in that game than I did with Yooka-Laylee. But that's like, that game got praised for so many things that Yooka-Laylee got. Either people let it go, or people praised it for things that Yooka-Laylee did also, and Yooka-Laylee got bashed for it. Like that, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of that's similar to how I feel. I think that really is telling of people with their opinions on games, because whenever you have a game like, let's say, Breath of the Wild, which most people think is pretty well near perfect. I mean, myself included, I think that is an amazing game, and that's one of my favorite Zelda games. But with a game like, oh, that sigh.
because I forgot a thing that I was gonna say just now.
You go for it.
And
I'll
it was
jump back into mine
directly in response of what you just said. I don't get why it's so many people's favorite Zelda now.
It's not my favorite.
Not to discredit it as a game, but as a Zelda game. Like, I don't know what you look for in a Zelda or what a lot of other people look for in a Zelda, but like all that shit that Ego Raptor said in the Sequelitis video is not true, because the only game that was open-ended like that was Zelda 1, and funny enough, that's the game everybody now in 2017 is like, it's very flawed, it's not a good game. But ever since that game, like, there's been direction, except for, you know, the other game, Zelda 2, that we don't talk about. But the thing about Breath of the Wild is that, like, Breath of the Wild's weakest thing about it was the main story. Or not necessarily the main story,
yes,
but the main quest. Like, the dungeons, it was 4 of the same dungeon. It was the same thing over and over again, and like, yeah, you had different mechanics to it, but it wasn't even really different mechanics. It was like different versions of technically the same mechanic, and aesthetically everything looked exactly the same.
Yeah, and that's where it's kind of interesting to hear someone else's opinion on it, because for me, I really liked having similar mechanics in a dungeon, but I liked the idea of the dungeon transforming and changing throughout the entirety of it, because I don't remember the last time a Zelda game did that.
So did I. Well. But like, you could change the color of the dungeon, maybe. Like, aesthetically, all the dungeons looked exactly the same, and they all there was all the same enemies throughout the same, like, this whole game, the same enemies over and over again, different colors of the same enemies, and everyone...
Yeah, I get what you're saying. For me, it was this video is going to turn into Breath of the Wild discussion.
I just want to hit on this first, so that talking about Yooka-Laylee will have context without me having to go back to this.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, Breath of the Wild was about the journey up until I got to that dungeon, and the stakes and the context of those dungeons, rather than the dungeon itself. So like that's kind of how I felt about the entirety of the game, because obviously the story is the story itself is linear, but like the way you go about it and move around the world is so open-ended, which is why I personally like it a lot. And obviously the story is basic as hell. Like, it's just Link, go beat Ganon, who's a big pig man, and
except for when you get to the main quest, though, because the main quest, like, everybody's in love with all the exploration you can do and everything, but like, the main quest is so weak, and the dungeons are so weak, because it's, first of all, they're short, very short, but then second of all, it's the same thing. It's the same thing each time. You have to do a thing to actually get on and get into the dungeon, where like the whatever person assists you so you can get into the dungeon. You get into the dungeon, and the first thing that happens is like, hey, there's a map. Go get this map that's 12 feet away. And then you go get the map, and then, hey, now you got to activate these things, and then you activate the things, and then now you got to fight the boss. It was the exact same thing in every single dungeon. They didn't even mix it up, like, at all. Like, what was even the point most of the time? I think there was, like, one dungeon that getting the map was, like, a little bit of a chore, but, like, for the most part, it was like, you need to get a map, here it is, and it was, like, across the room. Like...
Yeah. Yeah, that was a little ridiculous, and I definitely agree with you on that. And again, like really the main thing I liked about it is the journey up into that point. Like the dungeons themselves were interesting, but they were probably, in my opinion, one of the weaker aspects of the game. Like I definitely praise the exploration and the like the adventure and spectacle of it all rather than like the actual dungeons themselves. And that's when the shrines come in for me, because I like the shrines a lot. I mean, most of them I do. Some of them are bullshit, like those ones that require any type of tilt controls. Like, no. And then the combat shrines I absolutely adore, just because I personally I'm huge into action in games, and that's something I absolutely adore about this game is the combat system is so much more engaging and different than
I like
a lot
the
of
shrines,
other Zelda
but
games.
the problem with the shrines for me is that like I don't mind that all the shrines look the same and have the same like music and atmosphere and everything. The problem is that the shrines are directly what replaced main dungeons.
Yeah, and I definitely that like the whole dungeon aspect of the game I completely agree with you on, because that's something that I was looking the most forward to in this game.
Yeah,
Was
that's
these
what Zelda
giant
is.
massive sprawling dungeons, and we really didn't get that many of them, but instead we got this entire world filled with these tiny little mini dungeons. So it's like I got enough of that experience, but that is something that I hope they do in the next Zelda game. Is I hope they take this formula of this massive open world and expand upon it and just make bigger dungeons.
I mean, like think about this. Like
that would be fine.
There were 4 dungeons in this game that were all pretty much the same dungeon. The only one that was very different was the I think it was the camel, the electric camel. That you have to like do different things to like make the current go. Like that was different, but for the most part, it was all kind of the same thing over and over. And you have 4 dungeons that are very similar. Meanwhile, like Ocarina of Time had what, like 7 dungeons?
How many did it have? 8.
Did it have 8?
8 dungeons, and then Ganon's castle.
Yeah, it had a cavalcade of of dungeons.
A cavalcade of dungeons.
and then you have this, and it needed more. Like that's the thing, is that they didn't, as much as there is a linear game to be had, they didn't focus enough on Zelda fans that might be looking for linearity. So because I don't love exploration and stuff like that, and I just want to play through, this is the game you made for me, let me play through it. I feel like they neglected Zelda fans that like that kind of thing, which is crazy because that's how Zelda's been for years. Like, yeah, Zelda's been since.
I love both too. Like me personally, I love both. I love exploration when it's done right in a game, which I feel that Breath of the Wild did it very well. But then I also love linearity, which mini games, like mini action games, I adore. I'm really excited to play Nier Automata. I haven't played that yet. And along with just horror games, like horror is one of my favorite genres, and I love linearity in horror games because it drives the story along. And usually when you have linearity in a horror game, you're going to have tight corridors and something that adds to the tension. So like I don't mind it there. And this is a good transition into Yooka-Laylee, however. I felt like it was a very odd blend of linearity and open-ended exploration.
So, what, Yooka?
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that Yooka-Laylee, that's how Banjo was. Like,
oh yeah, and I will not, there will not be one time I will ever state that this game doesn't live up to what they originally pitched it as. Like, this game is a 90s platformer. Like, first and foremost, it is very much Banjo 3E, and many people are fine with that. I've never been like just sucking Banjo's dick like at all, but I've always enjoyed and oh my god. Oh, that would be a fun trip around third base, wouldn't it? So I've never gone down on Banjo personally, but I have always enjoyed the game. But I think the main thing with me in Yooka is interesting because this game is essentially Banjo 3.
It
but
is. You should rip away anything in your brain that tells you that this is not Banjo 3. Like,
yeah, this is definitely Banjo 3.
Yeah.
It's just with me, like, I played Banjo when I was a kid. I have nostalgia when I was a kid, and I didn't have a lot of the annoyances I do now when I was a kid. So when I played that, it was like, oh yeah, I'm a bear. And I was fine with that, and I was fine with a lot of things like the quiz sections and things. And now that I'm older, I have no nostalgia for Yooka-Laylee, so I'm noticing these things more, and that is really just on me personally. So things like the quiz sections, the weird blend of linearity and exploration, and the open-endedness of the levels without, I guess, having a conclusive ending to any of the pages, I guess, slightly annoys me, which is weird because it's essentially Super Mario 64, but you don't have to stop after you collect a star.
I disagree because I don't. It was very different because Mario 64 is not. Uh, Mario 64,
Mario 64 is more like actiony and like
it's not a collectathon.
Platforming.
It's not
and that's what I like about it.
Mario 64 is not a collectathon. It's got the.
It has elements in it.
Yeah, the collecting is what progresses it, but it's Mario 64 is way more of a platformer in like the most genuine, like organic sense of a platformer than Banjo is. Yuka is more of a platformer than Banjo is. Banjo is not a very platformy game. It's more about the collecting and the finding and the, you know.
Exactly.
It's here's my thing with that. It's not nostalgia for me. I genuinely like this game, and
I wasn't saying that.
No, I know.
That's just me.
No, I totally get that. What I don't get is so many people that are saying like, oh, people are just nostalgia blind. No, from my perspective, like I grew up and I think first and foremost, I think this game is not even for people that were like, yeah, I liked Banjo when I was a kid. I remember playing that game. I think this game was for people that were like, I loved Banjo and I never got another one. Like that's who this was for. And the thing is like I
bleed bears.
I was even more starved for a Banjo game because I don't like Banjo-Tooie. And the funny part about that is like I never got it as a kid. I loved Banjo-Kazooie. And I always wanted to play another one. I never got because I couldn't afford it when I was a kid. I never got Banjo-Tooie. And now I hadn't played Banjo-Tooie until I was an adult. And I don't like Banjo-Tooie. And that kind of says something. Because even now I'm trying to, after completing Yuka, I'm sitting here now like telling myself, you're gonna 100% Banjo-Tooie. And that way...
Oh god, you're making yourself 100%?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Because I feel like I can't really have a full opinion on it until I have completed the entire game. Because I've completed Banjo-Kazooie and I've completed Yooka-Laylee. So,
and that's exactly how I feel about Skyward Sword that we slowly glossed over earlier.
And that's the thing is that like Banjo-Tooie, like I can tell you that this isn't nostalgia because if it was nostalgia, I would have liked Banjo-Tooie.
Yes.
and I don't. And I feel like before anything, like before, you know, all the other criticisms, like Yooka-Laylee is it's crazy when people say like, oh, this game the levels are too open-ended and big and you get lost and you don't know where you're going. That is, if you can't navigate through Yooka-Laylee, you have never played Banjo-Tooie, because that game is a mess.
Yeah.
And that's
an absolute mess.
That game is so much more convoluted and confusing than Yooka-Laylee ever. Yooka-Laylee is much more like Kazooie. But the thing about Yooka-Laylee is that Yooka-Laylee took inspiration from Kazooie and from Tooie, but it only seemed to take the good parts of Tooie. Like even to the point where like, yeah, the levels are very big and expansive, but like you expand them. A lot of people's criticisms, I find this funny because a lot of people's criticisms rest on the fact that you like, how do I put this? A lot of the things that people are criticizing are silly because they only apply if you're trying to complete the game. Because the whole thing about a collectathon platformer is that you don't need to complete it. It's, yeah, you got to collect things, but to beat the game, you don't need to get everything. So if there's things you don't like, things you don't want to do, and this is how Mario 64 was too. If there's something you think is too hard or something you don't like, something you don't think is fun, you don't have to do it. You can do something else.
Yeah, you like have that option. And that's something I enjoyed, because whenever I was playing this game, like I was genuinely having a fun time throughout a good chunk of it, but then there were times where I would just my complete sheer personal annoyances would kick in, and I just could not get past them. Like I cannot stand the layout of the hub world. Like I really just don't like it.
Oh god, I love it.
I want to love it so much. I genuinely do, and I respect the point of it and the confines of the storyline, but I just hate it.
Well, what don't you like about it, like specifically?
I honestly can't even describe it. I mean, there is just something about, like, I guess it's the atmosphere. Well, that's definitely the main thing. The atmosphere, for one, I just do not like, and it was kind of one of the same things I didn't like about Banjo-Kazooie. It was like you have this nice game, like this nice world, and I'm being stuck inside of like a dank cave or a dank factory, and I really just don't like that for some reason. I guess something in my brain, because I look at this game, and I know, and that's why I think it's just me, like, because this game has such a gorgeous, beautiful art style. God damn it! Anyone who says this game is ugly because it's in Unity, no,
this game's. It looks phenomenal. It's so
no. Unity needs to kiss the ass cheeks of Playtonic, because this game looks amazing in my opinion. I absolutely adore the art style of this game. Everything focused on the art and the music of this game, I am so behind. It's not even funny. I am So that part of the game I absolutely adore, but it's just the contrasting of the hub world to the levels. It just bothers me. Which I'm sure that is probably something like you like. I'm sure that's something that you love, is like, okay, now I'm away from Tribal Stack Tropics or whatever it's called, and I'm back here in this steamy factory where people are stealing the books and I gotta save them and all that.
Well, but like the music really helped too, because it has this kind of like sinister, like
bombastic theme.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I prefer that, and then going out to I prefer that over like Mario 64. Because Mario 64, it's like, oh, what a nice castle. Oh, wait, everyone's stuck in the walls and no one's here. Like, Mario 64...
See, to me, that felt like I liked the mystery of that one. Like, whenever I walk into Peach's castle in there, I feel a sense of mystery and wonder. In this one, I walk in and I'm just like, okay, where do I go? I guess I'll wander over here, and I get to the point, and I honestly just want to leave it. And I know that's weird to say, because then I get to something like this game is essentially doing something similar to Mario Sunshine, where it has this hub world where it has tons of things to do, but I don't like the way it's laid out, and that bothers me. And that's really the only complaint I have. That's why I genuinely think a lot of my complaints are just personal preference. And the lack of a map, just honest to God, pisses me off.
But do you realize how weird that is, though? Like, the only one that had a map, the only was what, Mario 64 DS had a map.
Yeah, and I loved it. But like that game, the levels were so like small. That game didn't really need a map. But a game such as this, I absolutely want a map, because that's just something that I've grown accustomed to in a lot of modern games, and I consistently like looking back at them.
Listen. I
feel like I'm about to get just pwned.
Listen, just settle down. It's okay. Just when Mario Odyssey comes out and that game doesn't have a map, but everybody is wetting their pants over it and gives it fucking 10,000 on Metacritic, and it does all the same bullshit that Yooka-Laylee did, it's gonna be all okay, because it's Mario.
Oh god. Actually, during your spiel earlier, we were kind of like comparing Mario 64 to Yooka, and the thing I think I like about Mario 64 more is I feel like it's a lot more I don't even know how to word this. It's a lot more, I guess, on point and precise with platforming. Like you were saying, like it is essentially just a platformer in a 3D space. Like it is the very essence of a 3D platformer for me, and it is what I enjoy out of 3D platformers, because I want very precise like platforming. I'm not the explory kind of person, so for me,
wait.
No.
But Breath of the Wild.
Exactly what you're gonna say. exactly what you're gonna say. Hold up. With I'm trying to explain myself. I'm trying to explain myself. Okay, in the point of Breath of the Wild, the sole essence of it is the exploration and the consistent finding of things to further along your arsenal. Like with Yooka-Laylee, I feel that the upgrades don't really matter. Like I feel like they don't really make that much of a difference. So I really don't have a point.
Is that they progress the game, but
like, yeah, they kind of do. It's just I feel like they don't have as big of an impact.
Doesn't progress a game? You know what doesn't progress a game? When you wander aimlessly and then randomly find a chest in Breath of the Wild that you get a sword from that breaks in 10 minutes. That doesn't progress the game. Like, there's nothing...
No, that doesn't.
All of these chests across all of Breath of the Wild's map are so unimportant and you don't need any of them. Like, none of them have anything of importance. Like, everything can be passed up.
Yes.
And that's not an incentive for me to look for something. When I was playing another Zelda game, I wanted to find a thing because that was an item that I was going to acquire that would then do something for me permanently in the game.
Yes, and I don't disagree with you at all there. I'm talking more about the like option to go out and explore something and find something that can help me. Yeah, there's a lot of just bullshit crap you find in Breath of the Wild for sure, and there's no way to argue that. Like there just is. It's just more or less with Yooka-Laylee, I feel the abilities that you acquire, like some of them really help, but a lot of them I just don't really use. I mean, whenever I go around and fight enemies, I mean it's just spin a tail and beat them.
Because it's not about combat. The game's not about combat.
Yeah, and for me, I guess I wanted more combat because I do adore things like Ratchet and Clank.
Which is funny to me because I'm going to constantly make comparisons to Breath of the Wild, but like, I'm pretty sure Yooka-Laylee has more enemy types than Breath of the Wild does. Like, it's not...
for me, it's not so much the enemy types themselves, it's what the enemies do.
I know,
like, I feel like the AI is so much more intelligent, smarter in Breath of the Wild.
But it's not.
This.
That's the point, though. Like, I'm remembering what you said in your video. It's not.
Oh, now you're like, oh,
because I'm specifically remembering this point. It's not. You have to take it out. This is the thing: is that you're thinking about it the wrong way, which is what a lot of people that are criticizing this game are not thinking about it the right way.
We have to think.
No, they don't have to think, but they're looking at the game from the wrong angle. It's like looking at a first-person shooter and
wanting it to be a third person.
Or wanting it to be a fucking puzzle game. Like, it's not a combat game.
Call of Duty Puzzle League.
It's for all intents and purposes, it is a collect-a-thon platformer. If there is combat in there, it's not supposed to be a thing that makes you want to play the game. Like, those enemies aren't there because they're fun to kill. Like, in Zelda, in Bayonetta, those enemies are there because they're fun to kill. In Yooka-Laylee or Banjo, all those enemies are there to get in the way. Like, they're there to make the thing you're trying to do more difficult. That's the only reason that they exist. Because
yeah, I feel that they're littered there to annoy me. Like that's how they came off to me. Like they solely were there to just annoy me and stop whatever I was doing.
Exactly, but so are Goombas in Mario 64. So are Fly Guys in Mario 64.
I feel like there's so much less of them, and I have a lot more options to kill or pass them. Like with this game, it's like you can jump over them, yes, and you can get around them, yes, but like they will come after you when there is something like there's like a specific instance that you have to do something.
I mean, they're there for
they just annoy me.
They're there also because you get when you kill them, you get health or you get energy. Like, and that's something that helps. And
yeah, and this is kind of what I was starting to say earlier. I think it's interesting when you have a game like this who is very similar to a lot of other 3D platformers, but does a couple things different or is presented slightly different than other games, and it can come off as a completely different experience or slightly more negative. Because like when a person notices something that they don't like in a game, they consistently are... I'm trying to think how to word this. They consistently look for other things that or it just makes it a lot easier for them to see other things they don't like. Like that's why I feel like something I will say that I can't stand is when people talk about the performance issues in this game.
wait,
what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?
Hey,
this is something I will agree with you on. Breath of the Wild. There's so many more performance issues.
That game runs like shit, or at least it did before they patched it. Like that game
runs like dick.
That game ran like ass, and no one's. Yeah. And you know what? When that game, I'm not gonna say nobody said anything because people did say something, but they were like, "Oh, best game ever! Oh, it's amazing! I just jerked off to it last night." But then they're like, "Oh, but by the way, there's some frame rate issues when it goes blah blah blah." And then Yooka-Laylee comes out.
Village, it may drip down into the teens. Don't worry though.
Yeah, and then Yooka-Laylee comes out. And literally only has frame rate issues. Every once in a while, there's a random stutter that would happen when I played. It was not often. And other than that, it was completely situational, and I knew why it was happening. So there was a lot of particle effects on screen. And the frame rate would dip, and then it would, as soon as I'd go away, it would fix itself. Breath of the Wild, I'd be walking through a field of nothing, and then out of nowhere, for no reason, the frame rate would just drop to 2 frames a second.
But Gilly, it's rendering a whole massive world to explore. Sorry, yeah. Hate. See, that is the double standard that I can't stand, because at least what I was trying to present earlier was solely like the exploration in Yooka-Laylee is completely different than in Breath of the Wild, with the story and the things you can do and so on and so forth. But that is something that is not different across all platforms. Yeah. You should strive to have a consistent frame rate. And honestly, Yooka-Laylee, I've had like 2 instances where there's a frame rate dip, and it wasn't bad. It was just a small stutter.
And they patched it.
Yeah, and it's patched. It's fine. This is no problem at all. And the game itself is beautiful. Like, does it run 720 or 1080? I don't know.
I am not sure.
And honestly, who cares? Like, the fact that they even asked that should show you how little that even matters with a game like this. I mean, honestly, like, strive for a consistent frame rate, which this game did. And why I don't. This is something I also don't understand. I'm in your camp right now because there are shit that people say that pisses me off when they're talking about this game. I can't stand when people complain about the stuttering on a loading screen. What?
Yeah, I don't get that either. Who gives a shit?
Why do you even care? Like, it has no effect on your gameplay. Like, yeah, a slow stutter on a loading screen is there because it's loading the game. So I don't understand that.
I don't know. That drove me insane because I was like, that's not even the game. It's like that's got nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the game.
Hey, you know what? Did anybody say anything about when Mario? I don't know if it happens. I don't think it happens on the Switch, but like, anybody say anything about how Mario Kart 8 used to have when you'd be on the menu screen and you'd be hovering over like one of the like classes, it would randomly out of nowhere stutter.
Yeah. And hell didn't freeze over and implode on itself.
Yeah, no, dude, that means the game's bad.
Yeah, that's an instant 6 out of 10. Yeah, no, I'm very understanding. Oh, sorry, what?
No, I was just gonna, because I forgot to mention, because I keep forgetting that this is actually a thing that people say. Yooka-Laylee's worlds are vast and expansive, confusing, and there's nothing in them. Are you kidding me? There's 25 pages in every level. There's 5 ghost riders to find, 200 quills, a pirate skull, and what's the other collectible? Is there another one? Oh yeah, and wait, no.
And the coin, Rectro's coin.
Oh yeah, and the Mollycool. But like,
yes,
there's just so many things. There's so many things, and the levels are not. I'm sorry, the levels are not big enough to space things apart. If there's that many collectibles, those levels are not big enough to space things apart that vastly that you would be like, oh, there's nothing here.
Yeah, and I really don't agree with that point, but I can kind of see where someone was coming to that conclusion, because there are times whenever I'm exploring a level, like I've only played the first 3 levels, like I haven't finished the game either, so I'm not going to come off as like my video was a review or anything. It was just my opinion. But like for me, the first 3 levels, there were times whenever I would be running around and I would feel like I wouldn't have much to do. But part of that comes to the fact that I am so accustomed and used to Mario 3D platformers where you get something and the level ends, and I can choose to go back in there, or I can go.
Wait, which one are you talking about? Are you talking about Are you talking about explorative ones like Sunshine and 64, or are you talking about like something like Galaxy?
Explorative ones.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess really all of them, because the second you find something in a Mario game, the level ends, and that is that. Unless in Mario 64 where you collect 100 coins.
I never liked
yeah,
that.
and that's where it comes down to preference, because for me, I am very much a action 2D platformer type of guy. Like, I like a lot of 3D action games, and I like 2D platformers where you have a specified point. I want a certain level of exploration, but I want there to be a conclusive ending to that, to where I can basically, in my mind, I can write a checklist off saying, okay, that is done. With
But
this game,
nobody remembers Mario 64 where there was no direction either. Like,
yeah, and that was just my point, where I like how the level is ending, and I can go back into it, or I can do something else. But with this game, it bothers me personally, but I can understand why it wouldn't bother like you, for instance, because you collect something and then you just stay there, and you can keep going and doing shit. So really, like, it's the same. It's a similar thing. Like, it's just, for me, like, my mind my mind doesn't process that the same as like you, because you're so used to something like Banjo, where I only played Banjo like once or twice, and that's something that I was always like, okay, I would rather have this thing that I can mentally check off my list. Which is, I really don't know how else to explain it than that, but that's just that, again, like, that is another personal preference thing. Like, I feel like that's a lot of people's complaints about this game, is really just, what kind of gameplay are you? Because if you like Banjo, even Banjo-Tooie to an extent, like, you're gonna like this game.
A lot of people. That's what it really boils down to, is that a lot of people are criticizing this game over preferences. And
yeah, in that I'm glad that people have those opinions, because that does show how truly different a person is to another person. But it does piss me off that so many people are like, this is objectively bad, 5 out of 10,
Exactly.
I hate this game, and blue. And I never ever want to come off like that about this game, because again, there are so many things about this game that I absolutely adore. The art direction, the sound design, including like the sound effects, the overall presentation of the music is just incredible. Like, I was genuinely not kidding in my video when I said there were quite literally like 3 to 4 times where I would sit and I would just sit there and hum and pat my leg to the beat of the menu music, because it was just so catchy, and that's how I felt about all of it. And there's so many other instances like that where this game is so charming and interesting and fun, but I just had those preferences that draw me back from it and annoyed me. So yeah. I talked a lot there for a little while.
Dude, another thing. What is everyone's deal with this camera?
It's not even bad.
It's not bad. It's like every other fucking platformer.
That's why I didn't even mention it in my video. Because it's not bad.
It's as if no one played a 3D platformer before.
Yeah.
You ever played?
Or like any 3D game for the last 20 years.
The first video I ever made on YouTube, I made a joke about Mario Galaxy's camera, and I called it Mario Galaxy I Can't See. Because
that's funny.
Because the depth perception in that game, and even like, dude, even 3D Land and 3D World.
Oh god.
The depth perception, yeah, great, cool, little fun game, great game. It's a good game, but you know what? It's insane because it's so hard to judge depth, and I'm good at platformers.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I will say I think the only valid point with people complaining about the camera is those very specific instances in Yooka-Laylee where it does wrestle the control away from you and forces a forced camera perspective.
Those usually
annoy
situational.
The shit out of me.
That's usually situational, and it's because the camera needs to be in a certain place.
And it's very I agree with that, but I do get kind of annoyed too whenever you like brush the camera up against a wall and there's not that period of time where a lot of 3D platformers make the character invisible so you can still see.
Yeah.
That's something I wish this game did, but that's always something getting patched out, and honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I didn't sit back and was like, well, that's 3 points off of my 10 list here.
Oh, and
because it wasn't that big of a deal.
Speaking of patched out, apparently the new patch that they released, they patched the camera, first of all. Apparently they improved the camera. They patched out the dialogue that everybody was complaining, or not patched it out, but like made it skippable.
Oh my god, yeah, we haven't even talked about that yet.
Yeah. I don't. It doesn't matter. Well, dude, you know what? If they didn't put that gibberish dialogue in it, everyone would have been pissed. Everyone that actually backed that game would have been so mad that they didn't put that in. Even A Hat in Time was doing that before Yooka-Laylee was ever a thing. That like before they announced that at all, and A Hat in Time was basically trying to be what Yooka-Laylee did.
Did A Hat in Time ever come out?
Not yet, but A Hat in Time I know A Hat in Time I know is doing a lot of its own things. It's kind of like taking its own identity. But A Hat in Time, the whole point of A Hat in Time was that it was supposed to. They were making it to fill that void because nobody was making this 3D collectathon platformer. And to throw back to a game like games like Banjo-Kazooie, they literally were putting in, that was a feature, was the gibberish dialogue.
Yeah, what my problem was, the constant badgering of me with the slow dialogue and the having to skippable. Constantly skip it. Yeah, and that was what I was about to say, was when I can skip it, it's not that big of a deal because I like hearing that tone for the first couple of seconds, or the first second, like whenever they're talking, just so it does add a level of personality to the character, and I respect that, and I don't mind the gibberish dialogue. It's just on those scenes where you can't skip it, I just want to actually stick a pencil through my fucking ear because I just can't. I guess I can't stand it, and that's again a preference.
To me, that's like not even a big deal. Like it's not even. It doesn't. Even if it annoys people, that's not the game. Like the game, a video game is its. I don't care what people say about story and stuff like that. Like, yeah, story's good, but ultimately a game is its gameplay.
It's the level of.
That's why you're playing a game. If you want a story, watch a fucking movie. Like, that's yeah. You want an engaging story and stuff because it all adds up to like a more enjoyable experience. But like ultimately, what matters the most is the gameplay, and I don't understand how that is a really big thing that people are complaining about. Like little things that aren't the gameplay that people complain about. Like, really, dude, some dialogue is ruining your experience of the game? Because, to be honest, I thought it was a little fucking weird that Zelda had a British accent in Breath of the Wild. But
yeah.
But I ignored that.
Yeah. And that again goes back to my point about the story of Breath of the Wild is definitely the weakest part, because the voice acting in that game is not good.
Yeah, it's really weird and cringy, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, especially Rivali's. Yeah, he's a dick.
Yeah.
And sounds bad. Yeah. And that is definitely something I couldn't get past on Zelda 2. And I wish that I had a part written out on my my Zelda video about that, but I ended up not putting it in. I don't remember why I didn't put it in. That's bothering me now. Because that is something that I was very, very, very much annoyed with Breath of the Wild. Like, it didn't ruin the game for me, but that's also what I was harping on a little bit earlier, where like when people are trying to look at a game from an objective review type of point, whenever they find something they don't like and you start finding other things you don't like, other things just start adding up and seem worse. So, I mean, I think the dialogue is one of those things where for me, it is an annoyance. And I think in a game that I personally was just loving the shit out of, I would just completely forgive and be like, it has personality. It's not that big of a deal. And part of me feels that way. And part of me is just like, goddamn, these scenes I can't skip. I legitimately can't stand. But you don't find that annoying, and that's fine. And I respect that. And we're all adults here. So let's not bitch at each other on the internet because we're all consenting adults. I should not have said that. That was absolutely the wrong way to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll totally let this game fuck me. Yeah. Well, fuck me with dialogue.
Oh, I can't wait to take you in my truck later and plow you in the back. Anyway. Oh, God, just don't even put that image in my brain. I like Trouser Snake, by the way. That's a good segue.
Dude, I love him.
Yeah, I like Trouser Snake a lot.
And that's another thing, too, is I love all the character designs. Like, way.
Yes, I do. And that is another thing that I don't even see how someone could look. Like, I don't see how someone can look at this game and actually be pissed.
Dude,
Like,
so
I am a
people are
huge fan.
Unity, like that.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, and it's because Unity has such a bad name because you have bullshit Steam asset flippers on Steam Greenlight who just throw shit together in Unity because it's an accessible engine. But when someone actually uses it correctly, you can make like a genuinely beautiful game out of it. And that is what Yooka-Laylee is to me. It is a beautiful game that just has a few shortcomings, and that's it.
I don't know. Whenever people say a game looks like shit, I usually don't relate. Like, so many people said Star Fox Zero looked like shit, and I was like, it looks pretty cool.
Oh, that drove me nuts. That drove me. I never did make a video about that, but goddamn, that drove me nuts.
The game looked good. Like,
yeah, like it looked like a Star Fox game.
you know what it looked like? You know what it looked like? It looked like a Wii U game.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it looked like a Wii U game that was, I don't know, in HD with powerful colors in a good color range and contrast. I mean, yeah, but I guess it was just looked like shit, like a PS2 game. Like, are you that obnoxious? Are you that obnoxious? I feel like this isn't even a debate anymore between me and you. This is more or less just us bitching about those on the internet.
Because so many, like, I'm not saying that all the criticisms of the game are stupid, but, like, a lot of them are stupid. A lot of them are really dumb, and it's, like, people who are totally detached from the genre. Like, people complaining about things that are an inherent thing about the genre itself. And it's funny because those people will come back and go, "Oh, well, it should have innovated and changed those things, those not good things about the genre." I'm like, okay, well, that's cool, but like all the people who like the genre don't think that that's a bad thing. So there's a reason that I don't really like Mario Galaxy. Because as much as I like,
not every game needs innovation either. Like it is something that when it's done correctly, I mean, I am most welcoming of it. But like, not every game needs it.
And they said that they didn't. Everybody keeps saying, like, big outlets like IGN and stuff have said that like Yooka didn't perfect and like tweak certain things that were not good about Banjo. That's bullshit. They totally did. First of all, in Banjo, if you die, you lost all your notes.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't collect 100 notes and leave, or if you don't collect however many and then get a Jiggy or whatever, you lose your notes if you die, or if you don't leave the level or whatever it is. In Yooka, you don't. You collect the quills and then if you die, you still have the quills. And also Yooka doesn't have a life system and Banjo had a life system for no. Banjo, and it's very weird because Banjo and like Mario 64 and all them had this like arbitrary life system for no reason because there was really no penalty for dying except for that you start at the beginning of the hub.
Yeah, it really did nothing but just kick you out of the level.
Yeah.
And it was just a mild annoyance for like a minute. And so there was really no point to it.
But like Yooka, it did a lot of things. It replaced a lot of things with the energy bar too. Like there are so many collectible things that weren't really necessary that a lot of people are complaining about the energy bar. I like the energy bar because if it drains, I can just stand there for a second and it'll replenish. In Banjo, if I wanted to fly, I needed to make sure I had I needed to make sure I had feathers. If I wanted to, what's it called? I don't remember what the hell I was gonna say. Anyway, that's anyway. They replaced a lot of shit with the energy bar, and that was like a big deal. Being able to, especially once you get the flight thing in Banjo, you always have to like worry about having flight. Like you can abuse flight way more in Yooka because your energy replenishes, whereas in Banjo you can't really just use flight all willy nilly because you'll have to collect more feathers.
Yeah, which for me is always a good and bad thing because there are times where it obstructs that ability for you to collect more things and explore more things. And that's kind of where we come back to with Breath of the Wild, where like the stamina meter was just simultaneously genius in my opinion and just so obnoxious.
Yeah. Well, because Breath of the Wild did a bunch of shit that wasn't necessary too. Like, why does it rain and then ruin your life?
Yeah.
Why was that necessary? Tell me how that made the game better. Tell me how that improved the player experience.
Was that an actual question?
Oh yeah, because it didn't. Like it did not make the game. I don't. You know what I don't understand? Like they were like oh, we gotta make everything realistic and stuff. Like you can't hold metal if there's a lightning storm because then you'll fucking die. But okay, all right. But then it rains and you're like, oh well, guess what? It rains, so you can't climb this mountain. Okay. Because it makes the mountain slippery, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, but wait. So let me get this straight. You now cannot climb that basically more than vertical cliff that no human being without like proper fucking mountain climbing equipment would be able to climb because it rained?
Yeah.
Link is naked and he can climb a mountain with his bare hands. And then it rains and you're fucked. What is that?
and that's a thing for me that sometimes whenever I absolutely needed to get up this mountain because I didn't want to go the ridiculous long way to get up there, it drove me insane. But that didn't happen enough to me personally to where it bothered me a lot. It only happened a few instances, but I could understand how someone playing the game in a completely different way than me could have been severely pissed off about that. Like Gerard's video about Gerard's recent video he just put out, like completing that game. I'm sure he climbed a lot of shit for completing that game, and that probably drove him just completely bonkers. So I could understand why him would be so furiously against rain, and the next time he actually walked out into the rain, he probably just cursed the name of Christ and wanted to kill someone.
Didn't you ever meet somebody that could climb a mountain with their bare hands, but then if they swim for more than 30 seconds, they drown?
Oh, yeah, dude, I do it all the time. Yeah, it is funny. Zelda is funny about that because there are things it does so well, in my opinion, and adds to the realism of it all, but then shit like games need to quit doing this thing where you have a limited amount of swim time because humans aren't like that.
Actually, if you want to get real about it, if you want to be really realistic, okay, so you're going to put a stamina meter? Where's my adrenaline meter? Yeah. I'm about to die and now I'm stronger than I was 10 seconds ago meter.
Yeah. Very, very few games use a stamina meter well. Like there are instances, again, I've probably said this a million times. There's instances in Breath of the Wild where I do feel the stamina meter adds to it and adds an element of strategy to it. But it is so annoying and frustrating in some other instances. Like I just can't stand it. But like a game like Monster Hunter or Dark Souls, I do genuinely like the stamina meter because that level of strategy for the action is present and it makes the game challenging. Yeah. In that instance, it adds to the game. Breath of the Wild has some just very few instances where it actually adds to it.
Breath of the Wild's weapons break faster than they do in Dark Souls. What?
And if you hit a horse with it, a soft horse, you could break steel.
That's my favorite part. You have this big broadsword that's supposed to be wielded by a fucking giant. And it does, it's got 5 billion damage. Break it on a horse.
Oh god.
That's not how weapons work.
No, not at all.
Swords don't just break when you use them on two people.
If you hit a horse with that thing in real life, you would obliterate that fucker.
You know what you used to do? They used to be on horseback with a fucking sword, and you're swinging it and cutting people's heads off, and you slay like 100 people, and your sword doesn't even get dull. Breath of the Wild, you kill 2 bokoblins, and you gotta find something else.
Yeah. Oh, over the period of the game, though, I do like how you actually get stronger weapons, but it kind of is semi-relative, though, because
I love all my
stronger.
Ooh, tell me all about the strong weapons. Oh, this one's really good. It has really high damage. You can't carry any more melee weapons.
And that is where the exploration comes in, because you got to get Korok seeds.
Ooh!
It all makes sense, Gilly. It all makes sense.
But guess what? You don't have to.
No, you don't have to.
Because it's not necessary. Because I didn't do it. I got Koroxes, but I never traded them in for shit.
What?
And then once I got the Master Sword, well, I had the Master Sword. And that was it.
All right then. I wish the Master Sword had a higher damage ratio.
It does now. It does now if you pay $20.
Oh god, is that something in the DLC pack? Oh, I wish I had a gun to simulate blowing my head off.
And everybody bashed me for my video about the DLC. But yet Nintendo's like, give me $20 and you can have a sword that doesn't break.
I really wish they just would have, like, all the stuff in this. Is this going to be in that first like DLC thing they're releasing? I wish everything in that first DLC pack was just free, and then you paid $20 just for the story expansion, because I'm sure the story expansion itself is probably worth the $20.
Here's the thing: is but
locking that behind a paywall is so stupid.
I traded in my Breath of the Wild now to get Mario Kart 8, and I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I did, because I don't want to pay Nintendo $20 more. Because, like, the shit that they added was like, okay, first of all, I already beat the game. I beat the game, so there's no reason for me to do half the shit they want me to do, or that you pay $20 to do. There's, like, you get the Master Sword is, like, fully powered up or whatever all the time. And then, on top of that, like, the map, there's now, like, what's it called? What is it called when you leave a trail? Like, basically the map shows where you've walked.
Yeah, I heard about that. Like, it shows every route or trail you've taken basically in the entire like game.
Yeah,
which is a really cool feature. I'm glad they added that.
Yeah, but
you shouldn't have to pay for it.
I'm not glad they added it 2 months after the game came out, and then wanted me to pay $20 for it. Like, that's
they're kind of pulling the Square Enix with it.
Like,
where they're trying to add all these new features to a game and then expand the life of it, but why
it's not,
do
because
you have to pay for that?
Well, that's the thing, is that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense for a Zelda game. It made perfect sense for Mario Kart 8 and for Smash. But Zelda's supposed to be a finite experience.
Yeah, there's no... Yeah, ever since they announced the Season Pass thing, the absolute only thing I was potentially interested in them adding that I would pay for is a story expansion. And that is absolutely it. And that's really only... It's not so much for the story, that's only because I can explore new things.
Yeah.
There's new things there. Not so much like we've already established the story really isn't the greatest part of Breath of the Wild. So I don't care about that. I want to explore new shit. And I'm willing to pay for that new shit because it's new shit. It's not modified stuff that really is trivial and should be included in the game experience to begin with. Like hard mode.
Yeah. Oh, poor Gerard.
God, I absolutely... I don't want him to go back and
You know what's funny about that? He didn't... I was the one who told him about that. We were at PAX, and we were at this, like, booth that he was, like, helping run. And, we were sitting there, and I was talking, because at this point, the game had he had only had the game for, like, a couple weeks. And, it was right after the Switch came out, I think. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, yeah, so how far are you in Breath of the Wild? And he, like, explained it to me, like, you know, how far he was, how many hours he already put into it. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I was like, wait a minute. You know there's DLC, right? And he goes, yeah, I know, but, you know, like, oh, when it comes out, and then maybe I'll do, like, an update video. And then I was like, no, dude, the DLC has a hard mode. And his face, he just looked pale. Immediately. And he's like, no.
Oh man. I'm hot from all this laughter. I'm sweaty. I'm gonna have to title this like the great Yooka-Laylee Breath of the Wild non-friendship debate. Just something ridiculous.
Yooka the Wild.
Yooka the Wild. Okay. Really, I guess to just abrasively knock this back into Yooka-Laylee territory. The really only other criticism I had of the game, of what I've played so far, I don't know if it gets any better in the later levels, would be I'm not a fan of the boss fights, like the boss encounters.
I liked them, except for, you know which one I hated. You have to know which one I hated.
I'm assuming it's the first one.
No, because that one was really easy. Because I did this thing where like I didn't go against that boss until I was already like I had gotten the other moves, so I had the flight ability when I fought that boss. So all I did was fly up to it. So I didn't even have to deal with yeah.
See, and that is something I'm honestly really glad you said that, because that shows how different your experience can be, like based on players, which is how different your experience can be in Breath of the Wild. Because like in this game, that boss drove me nuts, and I hated it like a lot,
dude.
and the next boss I also just absolutely could not stand, and it's the mechanics combined with like it's not precise. It's not a precise design, like well-designed boss that I want to go up against ever again. Like I had no enjoyment.
The only one I hated was the one from Capital Casino.
I'm not even there yet.
Oh, have fun.
And and I don't want to.
You like
go there.
You like Kartos? See, that's funny. Is like I didn't hate Kartos. I didn't hate the minecart sections, and I didn't hate.
See, I didn't really hate it either. But the thought, like the minecart sections in any game, I've actually always been a huge fan of. Like in Donkey Kong Country, in DuckTales Remastered, like I do like minecart sequences. In this game, I really didn't mind them, and that was something that I feel like a lot of people hated. But the thought of that in a boss scenario in this game makes me just cringe.
A lot of it's weird, and it's gonna sound kind of like. It's gonna kind of not make sense when I explain it, but it makes total sense to me. The way that I feel about
that's all right. I'm along for this ride.
The way that I feel about collectathon platformers is like because you have that option to do what you want, and you don't have to do everything. You can pick and choose what you do. There are a lot of things to collect. So in this game would be pages. There are a lot of pages to collect in this game, whereas in Banjo there would be a lot of Jiggies, Mario 64 stars that are very, very hard and difficult and not fun. They're not fun. The Kartos sections are not fun. But as a whole, it's fun to beat them. Like 200C, like I just beat 200cc in Mario Kart. That wasn't fucking fun. You know what was fun? The feeling I got when I did it. And
the gold Mario you received.
Yeah, that's the fun part. There's plenty of other fun pages to collect. And then there's ones that are stupidly hard and not fun. You ever play Super Mario Sunshine? You ever 100% of that game? Because that sucks.
Blue coins.
Blue coins. You know what? Blue coins get so much shit, and it's well deserved. But they don't talk. Nobody talks about like the other like some of the shine
watermelon.
sprites. Some of the shine sprites that are bullshit, like the pachinko one.
The watermelon festival.
The pachinko. Which was the word,
and that.
And then what about the one where you're like floating on a leaf and the water's like poisonous, and you have to collect the coins as you're going down the river, thing.
Why can't I remember what you're talking about?
Because you probably didn't play it because it's terrible.
No, I 100% that game.
Oh, it's
unfortunately.
So there's like a stream, and you're on a leaf, and you have to use flood to control the direction of the leaf as it goes down the...
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember what level that was in.
Was that in the... It was a hub. It was a hub one.
It was a hub one. Ah, shit. What was that in?
I think that's in... Actually, I think that's in the one that you have to use Yoshi to get to. That annoying bullshit one that you have to sail on the boat with Yoshi to get to.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it sucks getting to it, and then it sucks playing it.
Yes.
But ultimately, it felt good when I finally beat it. And that's how I felt about, like, anything usually anything, individual thing I don't like in a collectathon platformer, it still feels good to beat it because I know that it was difficult and I did it. And that's...
Yeah, and I respect that, too. Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do the bosses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it is just funny because that shows what kind of game player I am. I'm so used to this type of design where I do have to get past that, so I have this mental block that doesn't allow me to just bypass that and feel fine.
That's why I think it's funny what I think is funny about that is that, like, they're like, oh, well, the whole game should be good. There shouldn't be blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, do you complete every game? Because I know most of you people are not completing Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I'm not.
How many Korok seeds are there? Do that without a guide.
Yeah.
You think the blue coins were hard from Sunshine? Collect all the Koroks. Like,
and get your golden shit.
but nobody talks about that. I'm willing to bet that over 95% of people are not going that play Breath of the Wild are not going to
99%.
They're not going to complete it. But yet,
yeah, definitely not.
Breath of the Wild has plenty of bullshit in it. There's plenty of shrines that suck. And that's the same kind of thing. And it feels good when you beat the shrine. Even if you hated the shrine, it still feels good because you did it. And I don't know how people can criticize a game for something like that, but then not criticize another game for it. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and then I think it just really all comes down to the way the game presents itself and what kind of player you are.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of incredible how different someone can experience a game.
I just don't think that it's fair to criticize a game for something that can be avoided. Like, you don't need to do it. If you don't like it, don't do it. You don't like the minecart sections, don't do them. You don't like the bosses, don't do them. You don't need to.
Yeah.
You literally can beat that game without ever touching a minecart section, without ever touching a Rextro game, and without ever fighting a boss. Because there's 25 pages per level, and Rextro has 2 pages, and then you have another 2 for the other two things. There's 21 other pages there that you can, 21 other pages there that you can get.
But then I would play devil's advocate here and say, if someone thinks that there's a bad section in the game but they don't have to do it, does that make the section bad?
Not necessarily. It just means maybe. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not calling them good or bad. But for example, like a lot of times when I would play through Mario 64 again, like because I don't complete that game anymore. Like I did on stream recently because it was the DS version. But like if I'm just doing like a run of Mario 64, I usually don't complete it. But when I used to play it as a kid, I used to, like, and this is something I did as a kid. I used to play Mario 64 as a kid, and I used to skip the red coins because I hated them. I used to skip the...
Oh, see, I like the red coins.
See, I didn't like the red coin star. So I used to skip it. Which is what a collectathon platformer is about. Because it's not a collect everything platformer, it's just you collect as much shit as you can collect. And that's up to your discretion.
And you have fun.
Yeah.
Have as much fun as you would like, and you do have the option to skip stuff. So yes, I agree with you on there. I just wanted to play devil's advocate there for a second.
But that's the same thing as unless you complete every game you play, you have no right to criticize a game about things in it that you don't have to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Oh, this was fun. What am I gonna call this? Yeah, Yooka.
I'm not even, dude. I didn't even say an eighth of all the things that I would say about this game and what like rebuttals I have for like criticisms and stuff. But like this is in my top 10 favorite games of all time now. Like that's
really.
Yeah, I love this game. Like that's
more power to you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
And that's gotta mean. I'm not saying that like it means something because like, oh, my opinion's important, but like enough people love this game now. I'm not the first person to say that. You can go on Twitter and look at the support of this game, and look everywhere on the internet of the people that are actually supporting the game. There's enough people that really love this game, like horribly love this game, that like it's not as black and white as it seems. It's not like, oh, this game's bad.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not. I think that this is a very, very good game that's not a lot of people's cup of tea.
Yeah, and you know what other game dealt with that is Star Fox Zero.
Star Fox Zero got worse criticism. And that's a Nintendo game. So
yeah, Star Fox Zero really got a big old shaft in it.
That's a good game.
Which is a shame too, because because I think that probably affected me more than you. I don't know how big of a Star Fox fan you are. I love Star Fox. But so I can see kind of where you're coming from with this game, because with that game, unfortunately, I don't think it had like as hardcore of a fan following that Yooka-Laylee is going to have in following years. But with that game does have so many criticisms of people who I would really go out and say honestly don't really understand that genre, which is exactly what Yooka-Laylee's running into.
Yeah.
Because at least for me, like I have these personal criticisms of the game, but I understand the point of this genre, and I understand there are going to be those who like it. So I have no problem with these annoyances really in that vein, because I know that there are people out there who love the shit out of this game, and I am happy for them. I'm not like it's the thing that annoyed me the most about these bad reviews was like I'm a huge fan of Jim Sterling's work, but like reading his Yooka-Laylee review just legitimately pissed me off. And I agreed with a chunk, like a meaty chunk of it, but like it severely pissed me off because it was ranked low on the totem pole along with just pure hot, wet, nasty smelling garbage.
Yeah.
And that was just like a little excessive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Star Fox, that drove me nuts because there was a lot of criticisms about that didn't make any sense. They were like, there's so many people were like, you know how many people said that Star Fox Zero was too short?
Yeah, it's like,
did you never play a Star Fox game?
Have you played a Star Fox game? Yeah, yeah. Have you ever played a Star Fox game or like an arcade shooter?
It's too short. Oh, play it again like you're supposed to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's these criticisms from people who I'm not going to say have no business reviewing them, because again, everyone is different. But like, if you absolutely don't like a third person like arcade shooter, you're not gonna like Star Fox. I mean, it simply comes down to that. And if that's not your cup of tea, that's totally good and well and fine. But I mean, these review conglomerates need to start like tiering their reviews to people who like at least understand that and can be like, okay, this is what the genre does right and this is what it does wrong.
People also don't do all their research either. Like Star Fox Zero, you look at the gamepad. You don't have to look at the gamepad. Press minus. Press the minus button. You never have to look at the gamepad again. If it switches views, press the minus button.
Yeah.
And and then that's it. You never have to look at the gamepad. And you can switch the controls to literally the only time that you need to use gyro controls is when you're shooting. Which is good. Because it's more precise, which is why people like Splatoon's controls.
Yeah. Yeah. My issue with Star Fox Zero really the controls like just take a while to get used to, but once you get a hold of them, it's a good game.
Yeah, so did Splatoon.
My issue came more down with I didn't find the level design as interesting as some previous entries, but like it was still good. Like I still greatly enjoyed the game, and I didn't feel it was so deserving of like the bullshit hatred that it got.
Not every game needs to be this is the best one in the series. Like that's
yeah.
Can't it just be a good one?
Yeah.
God, it's just it makes me crazy. And I really liked Star Fox Zero. Like that was.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that game a lot.
And what's funny
another high point of that game again was the music.
People
for me.
People make other things because, like I said, people don't do their research. They don't really analyze things properly and extensively enough. Like for example, like people would be like, oh, like so many people said, what's it called? So many people said that they were like, well, why couldn't they just patch out the motion control and let you do? And I was like, because it wouldn't work that way. The levels are designed around the motion control. Like so much of that game is designed around you having motion control to traverse it, that the game wouldn't work right if you were using an analog stick.
Yes.
It just wouldn't. It's designed around the motion controls. At least for firing.
Yeah, for those people who are aiming for those high scores.
And
those completions.
The other thing too is back to like Yooka-Laylee about like people not liking a genre and then reviewing a game in the genre. Like I don't understand what the motive is here, but they don't like. I mean, when you get like an outlet like let's say like once again like IGN, those are not Like like for example, like back to Gerard. Gerard is not IGN. Gerard is a dude that likes games. IGN is this big thing that has a bunch of people working for it, and somebody gets assigned to review a game. I have friends at IGN, and as far as like one for example, one of my friends works at IGN. She reviews games for IGN. She liked Yooka-Laylee. She didn't review Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah, so now IGN has this tie to it that all of IGN hates it. So it's just it's really frustrating when you get these like big review conglomerates that, yeah, like you said, assign someone who probably doesn't like the genre to review a game in the genre, and then it comes off as like the whole conglomerate is negative against this game. It's like, oh, IGN gave a game a 7 out of 10.
Go listen to anybody who's listening to this right now.
Who's still here?
Yeah. The co-optional podcast, Total Biscuits podcast. Listen to one of the recent ones that Gerard is on, actually. And they talked about Yooka-Laylee for a while. And it was Gerard and Krendor basically defending Yooka-Laylee to TB. And a lot of, like, Gerard was holding his own, but a lot of what TB was saying was, like, not make... And usually I trust his opinion on stuff, but, like, he was saying stuff that I'm like, well, no, because that doesn't make sense. Like, that's not... That wouldn't make the game design better. But then TB went on to say that, like, you know, this genre is not something he's really well versed in. So I'm like, well, that's the reason. Like, he was saying things like, well, why couldn't okay, so in Yooka-Laylee, or in any other platformer, if you see an item, right, like some kind of collectible, and it's stuck inside of a big block of ice, what would you think you needed to do?
Burn it with fire, and I tried that.
But he said something like, oh, well, why doesn't something in the game, like, tell me that's what I need to do? And I'm like, because then you're not playing, you're holding the player's hand, which is not necessary.
It's also fire and ice.
Also a great game.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about Sonic Boom, everyone. Sonic Boom.
But I think that's the thing, is that there's too many people now that either weren't fans of the genre in the first place, or just... Because, I mean, for all intents and purposes, like... everybody talks about this like it's a genre. It was literally only Mario 64, Sunshine, Banjo-Tooie, DK64, and, like, I guess Conquer. Like...
Yeah.
What other games?
But that's it.
And people
Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Daxter
even then, like,
and Sly Cooper are not like collectathons.
Yeah.
They're action based.
And you know what's funny about that is that plenty of people will be like, "Oh, well, the first Jack or the first Ratchet," and I'm like, and that is you saying that is exactly why you don't get it. Because the fact that you think that those games are like these games means that you don't get why people like these games.
No, that was a period of time where the 3D platformer evolved into something more action-based. Which me personally, I do enjoy, and that is for someone like me. Yeah. But there are plenty of people out there who are like, well, I want an explory 3D platformer, so give me that and not this mindless action drivel bullshit.
There's a reason people wanted to make a Hat in Time. There's a reason why Yooka-Laylee raised almost $3 million. There's a reason why Nintendo is now making Mario Odyssey. So
yeah, and this is a lesser known one, but there's a reason why something like Freeze Me exists.
What is that?
Which it's just another like 3D platform. Like it's okay. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't. It's probably like a good $10 little game that you can play for a few hours and feel like, yeah, that was fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have it for my Wii U. It's on Steam too, I think. It's not exactly what I would say. Don't hold the genre to this candle. Don't really look at Freeze Me of what to do in your 3D platformer. But like it is interesting and fun. But like that's really all we've had in terms of 3D platformers for so long. Yeah. So now you have something else that effectively Yooka-Laylee is a better game, I think. The hell was that?
I changed the battery to this GPS and it's still in here, so it just made a noise.
Oh, cool. What was I saying? Anyway, Yooka-Laylee is, in my opinion, a game with a few shortcomings, but ultimately, it's not a bad game. It is for a specific set of people, and I'm fine with that. And in fact, I'm actually glad that people who enjoy that genre are getting something that they've been clamoring for years and have been wanting for the longest time. And if anything, I'm simply just envious of people like Gilly, who this is like one of their favorite games of all time, because I would love to feel like that. I would love to.
And
I would love for him to be able to blow Link's cock in Breath of the Wild and be fine with it.
Well, that's why this is why these criticisms piss me off so bad, because like I like this game so much, but then all the media outlets are like, no, it's bad. And not that matters to me, but it does matter, because that's the reason that if that many people are like, this is bad, then that's when people stop making the games again. And that does directly negatively affect my gaming experience. Because if you're convincing a bunch of people that have never played the game before that the game is bad, then the game's not going to do well, and then they're not going to make another one again. So
yeah, you're not mad at the score. You're mad at the negative impact it has on people who simply don't try something for themselves. Yeah. And that I totally understand, because that is exactly how I felt about Star Fox Zero. Yeah. Like, to the T.
You think Nintendo's going to make another Star Fox game? I don't see it happening.
Not for a while. That game didn't sell good at all. So, yeah, it's good. If they make another one, it's probably going to be something very, very different, or it's just going to be a small downloadable game. I don't see them making another flagshipy type of Star Fox game for quite some time.
I think they need to, especially with this. You know what they need to do with this? Which is weird that they missed this mark because of this like resurgence of like 2D platforming that happened. No idea why they haven't made it a 2D Metroid.
I know.
And especially with like a game like even like with a game like not that I like this, because I do not like the aesthetic of 2.5D, but like with a game like Tropical Freeze and like Yoshi's Woolly World, I'm surprised they didn't make like a 2.5D Metroid. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Oh, and that is something I could talk for another hour about, because I love 2D platformers so much. And I know I said this in my actual video, but that's another thing, is like I like 2D platformers more than 3D. And that's an aesthetic thing, and that's a design choice by me that I rather back, but not everyone's the same. And at the end of the day, let's all realize that we're all adults, and if you're not an adult, you should still respect another human's opinion, because why be a dick?
Because it's the internet.
I love and hate the internet so much. The internet is one of humanity's greatest inventions and has devolved into just a steaming hot pile of meme-filled garbage.
Just memes.
That never should surface. And every time I walk near a hot topic and I see a grumpy cat, I want to kill a baby. Oh man, that was fun. That was fun. Could call this Yooka Wild Zero analysis. Yeah, that originally was going to be, in my mind, a 25-minute discussion video about Yooka-Laylee, and that devolved into something more than that. It blossomed into this beautiful flower. Did you have fun? I had fun.
I'm tired.
Yeah, it's like after midnight for me and you, which I usually stay up until, but I don't have these deep, dark, analytic opinions.
Oh yeah, no, it's not even late. I'm just tired of talking about this. And now, as soon as I get off, I have to record voiceover for my own Yooka-Laylee video. So
yeah. All right. Well, if you are still with us, thank you for listening. I had fun, and this may be something that if we have another topic, we may do this again, because I enjoyed it. And again, Gilly, thank you for being on the channel. I am sure the subscribers enjoyed having you.
No problem.
I thought you were just gonna say no.
No. It's not even like an answer.
I guess here's what we'll do our promotion-y bullshit and be like, you can find me right here on the Indie Jacob channel that you're watching this on. And Gilly, where can the people find you at?
You can find me at youtube.com/Gillythekid or Gillythekid.com, or you can type in Gillythekid in the search bar on youtube.com. But make sure you put spaces. No, don't do that. Don't put spaces in between the words, because when you do that, there's a rapper named Gillythekid, and I am not him.
To all of our dismay. This is not the Gillythekid, guys.
The other one.
Yeah, the other guy. Yeah, and don't type Indie Jacob into Instagram. I do have an Instagram account now that is the Indie Jacob, because if you go to Indie Jacob, I'm pretty sure it's a Jacob Sartorius fangirl page, and that makes me sad.
Yeah, dude, I typed it into Pornhub last week, and like, we gotta have a talk after we get off.
Oh shit! And
see, it's happening.
And with that satellite thing.
Not satellite.
And with that, I would say, if you would like to see another thingamajig like this, or you want to hear Gilly's sexy-licious voice on this channel again, leave us a comment below and let us all know about that. And if you are down there, just go ahead and tell us how much you love us, because we all need a self-esteem boost, let's be honest.
Speak for yourself.
I'm still trying to gain subs here, goddammit. All right, and I think with that, I think we're done here. No one get offended by our opinions. Thanks. Bye.